What's up, everyone, and welcome to Variant, the podcast.
Welcome back, Arris.
I am back. I am Tanner. The normal?
A little bit.
Right? Do I have that vacation glow a little bit? Like
you do have.
That? You've been in the sun.
But it might be just my envy. I don't know. I can't tell the difference.
Because I did go to the beach twice as well. I was standing in theme parks all day too, but beach 2 times.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
Seashells.
Well, welcome back, Variant Nation. Also, we are back early because we told you guys last episode that we were going to be taking a week off. And unlike we surprised you many times without an episode, so we figured we would surprise you with an episode this week.
How do you surprise someone without an episode?
That's just what we do. We surprise you. We surprise you. So we're back before we said so because we want to talk Ahsoka and also hear all about your glorious trip to the magical land of Disney.
Yes.
But we're going to do that later because there's a lot of Ahsoka things to talk about. But
Which
before
I
we dive
watched
into
in a hotel bed at night after a day at the theme park.
And you said you were going to do that.
Yeah,
Was it ear pods in and all the whole thing?
Oh, dude, I waited
in silence.
Well, luckily, because being at a theme park, the kids were wiped, so they were asleep. So yeah, I was just AirPods in, iPad.
Showered, relaxed,
yes,
ready for Ahsoka.
Yes, it's so good.
That sounded really weird.
Oh, God.
But we're going to go with it.
Unbelievable. I wouldn't even have noticed anything. Boo.
Listen, you may not have in the moment, but there were people thinking it. Yeah. So I just want to correct. No,
but I was ready to watch. And boy, well, first we should say spoilers.
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers.
For episode 5.
And pretty much all of Ahsoka.
Yeah, well, we didn't talk about 4 last time either.
Yeah, so just
all of Ahsoka.
1 through 5.
Everything Ahsoka up to this point, because you guys are going to be listening to this before episode 6 hits.
Probably like right before.
Yeah, right before, actually. It comes out tonight. So, but yeah, so we want to talk about that. And before we dive in, though, I do want to say up front this time, because we mentioned it on the back end of last episode, that the podcast is going to be switching back to solely the Variant, the podcast YouTube channel. Right. So if you watch or listen to the podcast on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed to Variant, the podcast YouTube channel. Link is in the description of this video. We had been putting it up on the main channel while we got the show relaunched, just so everybody would be aware that the show was back. But we're going to be switching back to the Variant, the podcast YouTube channel exclusively. And then, of course, you'll be able to find the show on all of the traditional audio podcast platforms and
like
so forth.
Spotify,
and so on. That'll all stay the same. So make sure you're subscribed, though, to that. Don't forget and hit the notifications so that you guys are notified whenever the new show drops. You can always still find the podcast in a playlist on the main channel. Yeah. I have a podcast playlist that I add it to every week.
You know what's weird to me? It's kind of speaking of like where the podcast is going to be. It's still weird to me that Spotify is like the #1 place for podcasts.
Has it become #1? Yeah. I know Apple was #1 for the longest.
Yeah, but that's why it's weird to me because Spotify took over.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, most podcasts are listened to on Spotify now.
Yeah, I guess it's not that shocking.
No, it's just weird because they're
probably pretty close. They were close before.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with so many people just have Spotify now. Like
Joe Rogan.
And he is exclusive to Spotify. Yeah. With that said, let's get into it.
Yeah. Well, let's go right into episode 5 because episode 4 I hadn't seen the last time we talked about it. And
still a fantastic episode.
I was a little bit behind. It was a great episode, but the big piece was the end where Anakin appears to Ahsoka and Ahsoka landing in the world between worlds.
Yes.
That was the big part of that episode. Everything leading up to it was good. It had its moments, its ups, its down. But that was the big deal. And then of course,
I mean, all the fights were like when freaking Ahsoka fought Balin, that whole fight.
Oh yeah.
That was awesome.
Very cool.
Or when Shin Hati was fighting Ren, that was really cool too. And I love that they're not just giving her the Force. Like we don't even know at this point if she's ever going to have the Force. Like Sabine Wren, like because she tries to use it and it's just not really working too well. So I love that if she is gonna have it, they're really making her work for it. Or I even like the fact that maybe she just won't have the Force because she just for whatever reason can't channel it as well as other Force users.
And if she does, will it be the dark side of the Force?
It's true. Can you imagine if they turn her evil?
I'm very curious to see because now at first I was like, okay, this is all it's gonna be a bait and switch. But I don't know. It's possible. He could do that. I still don't think he's going to. I'm talking about Dave Filoni. I still don't think he's going to turn Sabine to the dark side. I still think she's going to be
some sort of redemption.
It's either she is doing this so that she can get to something, and she's manipulating the situation, or she's going to be lured and then come back at the end. That's still what I think. But
yeah,
you never know. Dave Filoni.
well, she's just very much like Ezra.
Yeah.
So that's what she wants. And she's so much so she was willing to give the map to the bad guys.
And the hint, the little, and again, this is where Dave Filoni, having Dave Filoni behind these stories is it's such an incredible asset. It's like George Lucas Part 2 in the sense of the lore is he's playing off of what drew Anakin to the dark side.
For sure.
Right. So he's playing off of that storyline, and it's not as strong, but that's what he's drawing off of, that similar seduction of caring for someone, the love for someone and wanting to protect them or save them, being the seduction to the dark side.
Yeah. So it's admirable, but not right.
Yeah. But in the end, it can cause her great destruction. So episode 4 was good. The end was awesome. Where she wakes up in the world between worlds. And then, of course, and Anakin is standing there.
Hello, Snips.
And you're like, I don't know about you, but I was very much right off the bat. I was like, is this really Anakin?
I still don't know if it's really Anakin.
Because there's so much lore that he was playing with there.
Yeah, that's a big discussion right now because it's not confirmed even after episode 5.
Right.
If that was really Anakin or not.
It could be one of the 3 Force gods.
It could be one of the, oh my God, the Sons of Mortis.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I wonder if that'll be answered as the series
That's
progresses.
what I'm very curious to see. That the world between worlds thing is such an interesting inclusion. And when he brought it in in Rebels, it was such an interesting inclusion into Star Wars, just as far as like the actual mythology.
Yeah.
And he kind of opened a door there where there's so much you can do with it. But if you listen to Dave Filoni, he had very subtle intentions for that world, for that intermediate place, if you want to call it that. Even though he introduced a whole bunch of new stuff that gave him a lot of leeway and latitude of things that he could do. You know what I mean? And I think that in episode 5, you saw that potential. And because of what we saw in Rebels, I think everybody was watching this like, where is this going to go? And I thought that was one of the cooler aspects of him including it, was it really threw you, if you were aware of what this was that you were looking at, if you had watched Rebels.
That's what I was telling you when you didn't see episode 4. I was like, at the time I was like, because the world between worlds is a big thing that he introduced in Rebels. And it's kind of like this thing where you could see past, present, and future. Like you can go anywhere or see anything. But if, it's almost like, it's weird. It's like a weird twist on the multiverse, kind of. But it's not at all. It's not,
because he didn't intend it to be a time machine or anything like that. It's like this place where you can
just see everything.
Yeah, it's almost like a place of knowledge.
Right, where you could see everything that's happened and stuff like that. And it's, again, I'm wondering if that's going to come back around. Because the thing that was really interesting to me about the Anakin showing up there is you see him go from normal Anakin to Sith Anakin, like Vader. And oh my God, when he would flash back and forth from Vader to Anakin in those brief scenes.
Dude, that's why I was like, I was going to slowly get into 5 because there's so much in 5. That stuff was, it was just amazing.
I mean, that's like that's the meat though.
That's the meat. I was easing into it.
That just the whole, because episode 4 ends obviously with a big cliffhanger where she's we still don't know if she died too, right? Like, was she dead? Was she not dead? Like, because you see at the end, Anakin says hello, Snips, and then episode 5 picks up with, them being in the world between worlds.
Right.
Like he references are you going to live or are you going to die? So is she in a purgatory? Probably. But what is it a Force ghost Anakin, or is it Mortis or the son of Mortis or the daughter of Mortis? Because it's basically the embodiment of the dark side when you get into the whole Mortis thing. You got the son. The son is the embodiment of the dark side, and then you got the daughter's embodiment of light, and then you got the dad, which is kind of looking for someone to be balanced, which goes back to Clone Wars, which is why in that Clone Wars episode, the Mortis episode, that little arc, he wanted Anakin to be the balance to it, and Ahsoka even died in that little arc and stuff like that. So, or saw her was gonna die, saw her future self.
Right.
So it all ties in. That's what I'm saying. If you're a Clone Wars fan or a Rebels fan, this is literally just live action continuation of that. It all ties in
without question. And I think beyond that, and I said this to you just a little while ago, when we first started talking about it, is this I felt was the most definitive version of Dave Filoni showing off.
Yeah.
As far as the depth of his knowledge of Star Wars lore.
Well, because he created all the big part of everyone's childhood with the Clone Wars and Rebels.
But again, it's not just that he created a lot of the elements that he included in this show. It's that he created those new elements on the shoulders and the foundation of the lore that George Lucas laid out.
Oh, yeah.
Like he sat with George Lucas for years and years and years with George Lucas explaining to him in fine detail the every little nuanced aspect of what the Force is, why there's balance, what the light is, what the dark is, how they interact, why there's always two, master and apprentice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The different planets, the different peoples and species and races, the politics of it. And I think even more so, and George Lucas has kind of hinted at this, even more so than George, it's like Dave Filoni, his brain just absorbed that stuff so thoroughly in a way that even George is like, yeah, I sometimes forget. And George, Dave,
he's an encyclopedia for sure. Yeah.
And so that I think really, really showed in this episode because he incorporated such deep aspects of the entirety of Star Wars into this one episode. There was so much symbolism throughout this entire thing from start to finish. And you had, of course, we got the live action first. You look at a live action version of Clone Wars and some of the battles.
Dude,
Clone Wars Anakin. That was the first time we'd ever seen a live action version of
How long have I been saying I wanted to see that?
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to see that in Obi-Wan. I was like, how dope would that be to see like Clone Wars, Obi-Wan, and Anakin?
That's one of the things that we thought was such a missed opportunity.
It was a big missed opportunity, right? Especially since they already did flashbacks.
Even the ships. Like, I mean, it was down to every
it was prequel
detail.
Clone Wars stuff.
Yeah, seeing Captain Rex and
which was the first time seeing him live action.
And I also thought it was really cool how he did like a time jump.
Oh, he went from like basically the first season of Clone Wars to season 7.
Their first battle to the last one, the Siege of Mandalore, where he wasn't even actually there. I'm talking about Anakin. And he was like, I don't remember this battle.
Which was another thing.
You weren't there. We had already parted ways.
Seen them all, Mandalorians.
Yes, it was crazy,
bro.
What's the actual name of them? It's not the Dark Watch.
Dathomir.
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called. My brain's not working. But that whole sequence, and we're jumping back and forth between what's going on between Anakin and Ahsoka and what is happening in the real world with, where the hunt for Ahsoka. They're, Jason, they reveal also in this episode, he's
Mandalorian Super Commandos.
Mandalorian Super Commandos. Well, they reveal that Jason Syndulla is really Force sensitive. So he's actually the one who hears Ahsoka in a lightsaber duel with someone in the Force.
Yes.
And he says, hey, I think she's here. And he convinces mom and he tells her, like, listen. And some of it was a bit slow and, whatever. But it's just because Dave Filoni used this episode to go deep into Star Wars.
I love that, by the way, too. I don't know if they're going to continue it. I hope they do. But I love how the series is started much like Sabine with the Force, right? Like she's doing the Force. And then kind of almost out of nowhere, it was subtle, but like they really ramped it up in 5 where it's like Jason, all of a sudden it's like, oh, like he's really sensitive in the Force. And like he's way younger than Sabine. And because his dad was, Kanan, he's probably going to grow up to be a really good Jedi. So I love how they're building that. And I hope they keep building that and almost do the whole where it's like, Sabine's trying to use the Force, but that maybe it's not going to work out so much. And now we got Jason, which makes sense considering who his dad is.
Oh, yeah, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
And he's like trying to tell his mom, no, you have to stay calm and listen.
Yeah.
You really have to listen. And, she's just trusting him. She's like, well, maybe he's onto something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he winds up, convincing them that Ahsoka's there. So they go on a hunt for Ahsoka. And then we're bouncing back and forth between that and this duel. But each time we go back, it's a different aspect of what they're doing between Anakin and Ahsoka. And it starts with Anakin telling Ahsoka, I have one more lesson to teach you.
And then I love how she's like, You already taught me everything.
Well, they have that little
battle. He's like, I didn't teach you everything.
He says he says live or die.
So good.
Which again, right off the bat, we're already referencing their interaction in Clone Wars, the final season.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So right off the bat, we're already there. So it was this insane like mix of events from Clone Wars, events from Rebels, and the extension of that and closure, because they're dealing with Ahsoka has been struggling with her being the mentor for Sabine because of what happened between her and Anakin.
Well, that's the coolest thing, I think, for me, is being such a big Clone Wars fan and stuff like that. Because Ahsoka, I think, especially now, definitively has like one of the best arcs in all of Star Wars. Any character, Vader, Luke included.
I would agree with that because it's more thorough.
Yeah,
it's the most thorough story arc by a landslide. And unless you're counting Legends and stuff.
Yeah, and she's the apprentice or Padawan of Anakin, Darth Vader,
the greatest Jedi of all time, but according to George Lucas and
Filoni. Recently, he said that,
but Filoni says it because he says no. That's what George said.
But the fact that the reason why, because it all kind of makes sense, because I was thinking about what you were saying, how like when the series started, a lot of people, not just you, were like, Ahsoka seems like weird, like kind of like moody and slow.
Which is true.
But it was all on purpose when you get to this episode, because you notice the switch after this confrontation with Anakin, like her demeanor and attitude
much happier.
Switched, much happier, way talkative, not as moody and like quiet. But even before that, just everything they built, why Ahsoka was like this, because she felt responsible for Anakin turning to the dark side because she left him.
Right.
Right after she left him is when he went to the dark side.
Yep.
So like we see in the final season of Clone Wars, like, at that point, he loses his Padawan and he's bummed out about that. He made her those new sabers. He's trying to get her back. He's like, come on, Snips, like come back. And she's like, nah, the Jedi Order like betrayed me. I'm not going to do that. And he's bummed out about it. He's the only one trying to trust. He's trying to like bring her back. And then the stuff happens with Padme and all that stuff. So like she's part of the reason,
she thinks
she's part of the reason why he ultimately turned to the dark side. So she's been struggling with that this whole time, where she, we like to call her a Jedi because sabers is of course, but like she wasn't a Jedi. Still doesn't. She literally says, "I am no Jedi." Yeah. Like she says that to Vader in Rebels, to Anakin. So I'm very curious to see now that she had this battle with, whether it's Force Ghost Anakin or whatever is in the Force that's playing Anakin. Yeah. If now, going forward, episode 6 and the rest of the series, she will call herself a Jedi because now she's a master. I mean, she's wearing all white now. And
Ahsoka the White.
Ahsoka the White. Yeah, so I'm very curious to see if, like, clearly she's come to peace with herself after that confrontation, that one, where even Anakin's like, you gave her that nod of approval, so you did well or whatever. So I guess you live. So is she a Jedi again? Like,
see, my thing, I'm watching this.
Or is she the first canon gray Jedi? Like,
I don't know. I mean, they could go that route. My guess is no. My guess is that this is, because we talked about this during The Mandalorian, and when they first introduced Ahsoka, and we heard that they were going to be making a series. Are they going to complete Ahsoka's arc and restore her back to the Jedi Order? Right. And that was one of the things that we were looking to see. Are they going to do that and bring her full circle? And I think that that's exactly what he did with this episode, because her broodiness and she was just been jaded since she left the Jedi Order. She was jaded for a multitude of reasons. She was jaded by the behaviors of the Jedi, the fact that they kind of defied their creed. And instead of being peacekeepers and people that keep the Force in balance, they turned to war and they became soldiers. And it was death and destruction. And she hated that.
They touch a lot on the banter.
Yes.
Where like she's actually, that's part of her resentment and conflict too, where
she said it in Clone Wars.
She said it in Clone Wars. She said it again, where she's like, she even basically says, Anakin, she's like, look, you even had time of like peacekeeping where you would just go on missions and stuff with Obi-Wan before like the actual Clone Wars started. Yeah. Me, I'm just like, you're just training me to be a soldier or warrior. Yeah. And Anakin in that moment, that flashback is like, yeah, and what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
He's like,
that what this is about?
He's like, you're everything that I am and everything that my master before me is, which that line too, that one line I was dissecting a lot, because it's like in a roundabout way, Filoni, Anakin, whatever they're saying, that every Jedi is a stronger Jedi because you've learned everything from all the Jedis and Masters before you. So you're the Jedi, in theory, are supposed to be getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, I mean, it's kind of open to interpretation, but I kind of took it to him roundabout saying, like, you could be better than me, Snips. Like,
no doubt. And I think, because right at the beginning, when at their interaction, he says, I have one more lesson to teach you.
Yeah.
Right. And they have a little duel, and she stops him, and she's like, it looks like you don't have, there's nothing left for you to teach, sort of thing. He's like, I haven't taught you everything yet. Right.
Yeah.
And I think by the end, what you realize is that what he was teaching her, the lessons that he was there to teach her, was one, there was nothing you could have done to prevent me from turning into what I became.
Yeah.
This was not your fault. And through their interactions in that sequence of events, she was able to gain a level of closure that this was something that needed to happen, and that there was not anything that she could have prevented. So that was one. But then the second one, and this is where
do you think there was a specific part with that bit that kind of like pushed in that direction, you think, for him trying to say
it was where she saw him going, where he tells her, this for me, it was where he tells her. Because it is kind of
all open up to.
Yeah, there's a lot of like symbolism.
Filoni did that on purpose. He said that.
A lot of it, yeah.
He flat out said with the world between worlds, like he goes, I know the answer, but I don't want to tell the answer. He goes, I want people to leave it, to have their own interpretation. He goes, I have the answer, but will never tell you the answer.
That is such great storytelling.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a great way to tell a good story. We've talked about that actually on the show in the past, is just you may have your intention, but you don't need to be soapboxy. Let the audience draw from it what they want to draw from it.
Were you going back when he was walking away?
Yeah. So when he says to her, like, hey, we've been peacekeepers in the past, and Obi-Wan told me this, but now we're at war, and I have to teach you to be a soldier. And he says, hey, this is, and he goes on that walk with her, and he says, you're part of a legacy and the whole thing. And then she says, yeah, and she references him becoming Darth Vader, and he says, is that what this is about?
Yeah.
And he's like, you've heard nothing. And he goes to walk off, and that's where you see those first flashes, and his lightsaber turns from blue to red.
So good.
And it flashes, it's to him going off into battle, but now he's Vader.
Yeah.
And that, like you said, so good, Dave. Dave! So good.
Because the sound for this episode too.
So the music,
the flashes,
everything about it, so good. So then that, I think, is
the
her
lightning
first
crack
glimpse.
every time he went to Vader.
Because then it shifts to Mandalore, and she's older now.
The final season of Clone
this
Wars.
whole thing. And well, at this point, it already is.
I feel bad for people who haven't watched Clone Wars or Rebels and watching this, because you could still get it, but it's not going to hit nearly as hard.
No. Yeah, if you haven't seen Clone Wars and Rebels, a lot of this is going to be lost on you.
Yeah,
like you're not.
It's still cool,
so very cool,
but not as cool as it could be.
Yeah, because there's so many things that you will just miss. But then right after that is where he comes back, and they have that. Now he's Vader, and his eyes change color.
Oh, when they're back on the world between worlds?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And it's right after that point where they start battling, and remember, he kicks her. So and that's when he comes up. Yeah. And he says, live or die. He goes back to the live or die question, which again is a reference to their battle in Clone Wars, where she's like, I'm not going to leave you again. Right?
You're talking about Rebels?
I'm Rebels. I'm sorry.
Rebels,
I'm saying Clone Wars, and I mean Rebels. I think I said that before. I meant Rebels.
Yeah, I was thinking back. I'm like,
no, Vader was already gone at that point. So, so I meant Rebels. So when she fights him in Rebels, and she says, "I'm not going to leave you again," and he said, "Then you will die." Yeah, right. So he's bringing back to her the same proposition. Come on, Dave. That's just too good. A full circle, same proposition, live or die. Join me and live, right? Yeah. Or oppose me and die. Yeah. Same thing. He says, that's your choice again. Live or die. And she says, I choose to live. And he's like, incorrect. And he just comes at her really hard, kicks her, and then all of a sudden she's back to full-grown adults. Ahsoka, they're back in the world between worlds. And this is the thing that I got goosebumps at this part.
When he comes walking in as Vader, and
he comes in, and then but they have that crazy good battle back and forth, and then she winds up disarming him
Yes.
Right?
And I know what you're going to say.
And she takes his, and she has this moment, and it's a full-blown homage, callback of Luke and Vader.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yes.
Where Luke defeats Vader in front of the Emperor, and Luke he has the opportunity, and you're not sure if he's going to do it, and he throws the lightsaber and he says, I'm not going to kill him. I'm a Jedi like my father before me.
Yeah.
And she doesn't say that.
She doesn't,
but
no.
she kind of does. It's kind of the same. She's like, I choose to live, but it's the same lesson. It's Anakin teaching Ahsoka the same lesson that he learned from his son.
Right, because this is after the fact.
Yeah, this is after the fact.
Uh-huh.
And that passing of that last bit of legacy that Ahsoka wasn't there for. She didn't experience that with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I didn't teach you everything yet. And the last lesson he teaches her is the lesson he learned from his son, Luke, just before he died. And he says, she throws the lightsaber and she's like, choose to live. And he puts his head down, he lifts his eye, and his eyes go back to normal, and he smirks and he says, there's still hope for you yet.
So
it's just so good.
But the one bit though, when she gets up to him with the saber to his neck, she turns Sith.
Yeah, she goes Sith for a moment.
She goes Sith, which is the symbolism there is really cool because it's like in that moment, you see she's choosing.
She has the same moment as Anakin.
Yes, she's choosing to go either to the light or to the dark. And you see like that good Rosario Dawson, like to her credit, like that just facial expression.
Fierceness, yeah.
She's just like, and you see the switch, and then she just backs up, and her eyes go back to normal, and she throws the saber down, and it was like just so good, so
because she proves in that moment, that exactly what Anakin told her early on in their conversation. He's like, every part of me is in you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's just what you choose to do with it, essentially. So those were the two lessons that to me, that's what he was there to teach her. And then when she makes that choice and he walks away, he turns around, she turns.
But that's what makes
she hears a voice, right? She hears them calling or.
He disappears and she's just saying Anakin, and then that's
which, by the way, what they did with the water.
Oh, how it comes up, where
the bridge slowly disappears and it becomes water. The visuals on that just so good. And then she's in the ocean. They rescue her, and when she comes out, just like we said earlier, there's just like she shifts from this brooding, jaded, person who has just this gorilla on her back, and you can see that it's all been lifted, and now she has been fully restored, and she has become like one with the Force again.
It's man, the parallels are kind of astounding with like everything he did here, but also like I love even the nuance of like you could tell Anakin's fighting how more nimble he was, and like he did like the Obi-Annie spins and all that stuff like that. And then when he would go into like the brute mode, where it's just the very like powerful, like meaningful strikes.
When he was
there was something so subtle when like he clashes with her with the lightsaber and they're holding it right there, and he just goes like a quick like that, like it's just power, like just pushes her down. I'm like, oh, it's so Vader. It's just like using his force,
just brute force.
Yeah. So there was just a lot of moments like that, and Hayden Christensen, man, like I was telling you before, it's like I don't know if it's the nostalgia or what, but like just his performance, I was like, bravo. Like, because he is Anakin. Like, he is. So it's just like.
I think it's a mix of both. I think it's a mixture of there's nostalgia of him being Anakin prior to Vader.
Dude, even the de-aging, didn't the de-aging look great?
It was okay.
Really? I thought it looked really good.
I didn't mind it as much because I think the intent was to give him a ghostly feel.
For sure.
And that it worked. Like especially, I thought it looked particularly good when they were doing the Clone Wars battle sequence reenactment
in the flashback. Yeah,
I thought that looked really good, and just everything about those sequences. But it was really, for me, it was him intertwining all of these different elements into this one.
But that's that
sequence where the flashes of him as Vader, going in and out of from Anakin to Vader in the smoke. I mean, just all these different things that he did little nuanced Easter eggs to these really sweeping moments of lore and, huge story arc closure moments for characters. It was just, that's why I said right out of the gate, this was Dave Filoni showing off like how insane of a grasp he has on the entirety of the Star Wars mythology.
Well, that's what makes me think, like, with the message Anakin was trying to tell her down there, is like, was that really a Force ghost Anakin? Just because now he's in the Force.
Yeah.
He could probably jump back and forth to Sith and light side because he's already, at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Because the Force is both light and dark.
Yeah. So, and at the end of Return of the Jedi, you already see him like join Yoda and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
So, like, was that him teaching the lesson to her that he had just learned from Luke? Like, it makes you wonder. Like, it's like, it is awesome to not know. I do like it open to.
I mean, unless they introduce the characters.
Yeah, I'm so curious because when you really, really think about it, it's like, well, maybe that had to really be Anakin, right?
I think for me, I hope it was Anakin, and they don't abruptly tell you, oh, it wasn't really Anakin, because everything that transpired in the World Between Worlds, it was well within the mythology and the lore of the Force, in that he wasn't really turning to the dark side inside the World Between Worlds. He was teaching her a lesson. So everything he did was so that to get her to where she needed to be, so that she could fully be restored within the Force and return as a master Jedi.
Yeah.
And to where she could have closure on her relationship with Anakin, but also so that she could be freed up to be a proper master to Sabine. Because that was what was holding her back, is her interaction and everything that transpired between her and Anakin. And that uncertainty, that imbalance, she wasn't able to be a proper master to Sabine.
Right.
She felt like she was going to fail her the same way she felt like she failed Anakin. And the way Anakin failed her. Would I just repeat the mistakes that he made eventually? There's just all these different aspects that you could include there. But the way that he brought it all together and that, I thought it was genius. We might still get more, but
I was wondering if we'll get more Anakin, if we'll get more Hayden Christensen at all going forward, because I mean,
I would love to see them leave it unless it's just a subtle inclusion, because that was such a great way to close that out.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do it back, because the lesson was taught and like she's there now.
Yeah,
but man, I mean, the whole episode, because even after that, the whole Purgles thing too, where she speaks to the Purgles and they get in the mouth.
Yeah, it goes full after that. By the way, it goes full Lord of the Rings.
Full Lord of the
like she's full on Gandalf the White. Like Dave Filoni, man. Look, I feel you, bro. He went full nerd mode.
No, it was awesome. But like I just keep rewatching that was it like that 10-15 minute Anakin Ahsoka scene, because it's just, I feel like every time you watch it, you could probably pick out something more from it, because it's so good.
It was so good.
It's so good. Just everything, like the lessons and all that stuff. That was like peak Star Wars right there.
And I know a lot of people still said that this episode was boring.
Who said it was boring?
I did hear there was a lot of people that were.
You just can't please those people.
You're never going to be able to please
those are
everybody.
just people just looking for something to complain about.
But I do think that some of it is because if you were not that big into Clone Wars Rebels, you're going to miss a lot of stuff. And the stuff, when you cut out of the World Between Worlds, it was not much was going on.
I mean, I loved all the Hera stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It was a little slow at moments, and but none of it bothered me. Like some of the previous episodes, even episode 4, I thought was a little bit slow at points, but it was the best episode so far up until that point. And then episode 5 was okay, now we've arrived. As far as like, if you're a Star Wars fan and you really love the Star Wars mythology, if you didn't love episode 5, I don't really, because that's kind of, I don't know how.
That's kind of peak, like, because again, you brought Anakin back. Like, what else are you gonna do? Like, where do you go from there? Yeah. So it's like,
because you got Hayden Christensen, and this is what I was gonna say before, is that some of it is nostalgia. Just the awesome seeing him come back as Anakin, because he is Anakin. That's all we know is Anakin, as far as like an adult.
And didn't this hit so much harder than his appearance as Vader in Obi-Wan?
Oh, way more.
Yeah.
Because of what they did with Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan was a total wasted opportunity. And we won't go down that road. We'll stay on the positive side today. But the other aspect is that when not directed by George Lucas, because George Lucas is kind of a notoriously not good actor's director.
Yeah.
He just say the line, and as long as I get what I need for the visuals, we're good.
Right.
So you get a lot of very flat, at this point, kind of what's the word? It's kind of a endearing, very unique performance type from Star Wars.
Oh, I see.
Outside of Han Solo, I would say everyone just kind of has this very like, yeah, and then we're gonna go here. It's just very kind of.
I love it.
Yeah, it has its own charm, but it is very unique to Star Wars in that way. But outside of underneath George Lucas as director, in the hands of other directors that will draw out more of a performance, he's been, I would say, much better as Anakin than he was in the prequel films. Although Revenge of the Sith, I thought he was better.
Yeah. No, Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
Revenge of the Sith, I thought he
might be my favorite Star Wars movie.
But Clone Wars, it was not great.
No. There's a charm
not
for
Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones. Sorry. Yeah, there's a charm for me with
titles
because I know everyone was like, especially at the time, like he was whiny and annoying, and it's like
Attack of the Clones, man.
I hate sand. It's rough in its course.
It was emo Anakin.
Like
yeah.
But I that's the Star Wars that I grew up with in theaters, so I have a fondness to it.
That's fair.
So it brought seeing him back here because I liked Hayden Christensen obviously in Obi-Wan, but like. This just hit because Dave Filoni did what they should have done with Anakin in Obi-Wan. They should have.
Can you imagine if Dave Filoni wrote and directed?
Because
Obi-Wan?
it would have had so much more heart. It would have had like a lot of like because that's what I wanted them to do more. Like, unfortunately, Obi-Wan wasn't so much about Vader and Obi-Wan as we wanted it to be. It did a lot of sidetracks on characters that weren't even the title of the show. Like you know what I mean. So. This was just so good, and you had another. You had two fan favorites. I mean, Obi-Wan did too. I mean, you had Vader and Obi-Wan, so again, there should be no excuses there. But alas,
in fact, I'm gonna put it like this. You're making a show about Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader, and a rematch between the two after Revenge of the Sith. How do you give that to anyone other than Dave Filoni? How does Dave Filoni not at least write that?
I don't know.
This is the perfect example of the Disney Lucasfilm flaw.
But isn't he in charge? I don't know at the time, but he's creative in charge, right?
It's Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. There's no, outside of Luke Skywalker, Leia Skywalker, and Han Solo, arguably there are no more important characters to be handled with, kid gloves. I wonder why it's right than those two.
He's super high up in Disney. I believe he's like chief creative officer, right?
I don't know. Maybe it was that he was doing Ahsoka and they wanted to push it out and there wasn't enough time. I don't know what it was, but it was a bad decision.
Anyway, he did fine with he's doing great with Ahsoka.
Yeah. Ahsoka is starting to come together. The first 3 episodes for me were very slow and had issues.
It's definitely it just keeps getting better.
It's gotten better as the season goes on, and I'm very curious to see. My take is... I
don't know how you're going to match last episode. It can't be as good as episode 5.
No, there's no way. I mean, who knows? I don't want to say that because it could happen. But I think episode 5 was the light side of the Force. I think episode 6 is going to be the dark side of the Force. We're going to shift to wherever they're headed.
What's going on with Balin too?
Yeah,
like, are we going to learn where he's from?
And Morgan, the Lady Morgan, and wherever, and Sabine with them, obviously, and all that stuff. So I think episode 5, we got the story around the light side of the Force. Episode 6 is going to be probably focused on the dark side of the Force. And I'm very curious to see, because that means we might arrive where we're going in this next galaxy, this new galaxy, and we might finally get Ezra and see what happened with him, and we might finally get Thrawn.
I don't know if it's going to be tonight. I mean, I hope so, because I would like to see more than one episode.
I have a feeling it might be toward the end of the episode.
And then the last 2 episodes will give us Thrawn?
Yeah. Because we're going to have to get...
we haven't heard, you see him briefly in the trailers, the same clip over and over, but they haven't let us hear him talk.
Yeah, not at all.
Because it's the same voice from Rebels. So they got the same dude to play him live action.
Yep.
He's a Skarsgård, isn't he? Or no, he's not a Skarsgård. I forget his name.
Yeah, now you just totally made me flake on it. I can't remember his name.
And he's an icon.
But he's an incredible actor, like just across the board.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see, because I think that what we're probably going to get is we're going to get an episode where they arrive. They're having to search for them. There's a search that's ongoing. And then towards the end of the episode, they find Lars Mikkelsen.
Lars Mikkelsen, right.
Is who plays Thrawn. But towards the end of the episode is where they finally find Thrawn. And I don't know. Maybe we don't get Ezra. Maybe Ezra doesn't. We don't get to Ezra until Ahsoka arrives. Because Ahsoka's chasing behind him now with the Purgles.
It's freaking space
The name
whales.
Purgles makes me laugh every time.
I love Purgles. Space
It's
whales.
like some sort of like a Dumbo circus character. For those of you who are old school 80s.
Anyway, Ahsoka episode 5 was great. I mean, I love the whole series thus far. I'm really digging it. It's definitely on track to be one of the best. Well, it already is. I would say one of the best Disney Plus Star Wars series.
Episode 5 of Ahsoka was, I would be right alongside you arguing this is some of the best Star Wars content that we've gotten since Disney took over.
For sure. And it's not shocking that it's because Filoni.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just let Filoni and Favreau do it. I was listening to a podcast on the way back from Florida, actually. And Favreau was saying one of the things he had to do for Mandalorian that he made sure of is that like the same person or same two people wrote it. Because he said he wanted a very through line story. He's like, I'll have different people direct it, but I need the story to come from like 1 to 2 sources, like a cohesive mind. That way it's not everywhere. That way we know where we're going to start. We know where it's going to be in the middle. And we know where it's going to end.
What a thought.
Yeah, right? Weird.
Yeah, what a thought. But that's our take, and we'll be back next week to talk episode 6. But when you were in Disney, was it like a Ahsoka hype?
Oh yeah, there was lots of Ahsoka stuff. I took pictures of like, especially Hollywood Studios, because that's like the movie like cinema place. There was banners everywhere, all the Ahsoka merch, like t-shirts. My daughter got a plushie Ahsoka doll. Like she loves Ahsoka. She's obsessed with Ahsoka. She got a Ahsoka doll and Ahsoka's kyber crystal on a necklace.
Oh,
white
nice.
kyber crystal.
How'd they like Batu? How'd the kids respond to
Star Wars? I was one of the bummers of the trip. My both my daughters actually wanted to see Grogu. Because like whether you're a Star Wars fan or not, like everyone thinks Grogu's adorable, and they just, especially kids, they want to see him. But because there were storms when we were going, I asked the cast member there, and they're like, he's not coming out that much because of the storms, because of the rain,
right? And
he's got like the metal armor, so his appearances weren't that much. So we didn't get to see him, unfortunately.
Oh, that sucks.
But we saw the First Order stormtroopers and Kylo Ren, who actually photobombed one of our pictures in front of the Millennium Falcon.
You sent me that. It was
really
awesome.
funny because like the cast member taking the picture there, because we got like the photo pass, so they have like stations. Or anyone's been to Disney, they have Disney employees or cast members, as they call them, perched at places to take pictures, and one of them is at the Millennium Falcon. So she's kind of like laughing. I'm like, what? It was like, what's happening? I was taking pictures. She's like, what's she laughing about? And she's like, I just got some troopers in the picture. They photobombed. We're like, what? And then when we looked on the app on our PhotoPass thing, like, oh my God, there's like a stormtrooper and Kylo Ren posing in the background.
Yeah.
I was like,
it was an awesome picture.
Yeah,
with the Millennium Falcon there.
Yeah, I was like, that's so funny. Like how fun.
Yeah.
And then after that, like, because my kids are all talk, they love the characters, but every time I'm like, we met like Elsa and stuff. And I'm like, oh, go tell Elsa you have ice powers too. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to tell Elsa I have ice powers too. And then
totally.
I was like, yeah, use your ice powers. I'll go like this. Because that's what they do at home when they're just running around the house. But when they get to Elsa or any character, they freeze up. And they're just like, my oldest one, she just like smiles and nods. And it's like, she gets like all embarrassed. She's like, and the characters, like these people, have you ever done like meet and greets with these characters or anything? Or taking your kids, like they don't break character.
Right. No, it's intense.
Like, so if you're meeting Ariel, like she believes she's Ariel, like whatever, Mickey, whatever character you're meeting. But it's awkward for the parents with the ones that talk. Cause like, it's like, I know you're not Cinderella. You could talk to my kids like Cinderella, but I know you're not Cinderella. Right. So
don't talk to me like Cinderella.
I mean, it's fun and stuff, and I get it, but it's just like because it's like, how am I going to react? Am I supposed to be like,
you're supposed to play along?
Hey, am I supposed to be like, oh yeah, how you doing?
You're supposed to be the Prince Charming,
which I do kind of, but it's still a little awkward. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. Where's Gus?
Don't talk to me.
Yeah,
don't talk to me. Talk to the kid.
But anyway, they freeze up. So when we were in Batu, Galaxy's Edge, the stormtroopers running around. They had a photo op, and the way the photo op works with the troopers is there's no line. It's just the troopers pick who gets the picture. So you all kind of go around in a circle, and the troopers call you out. They'll point to you, or they'll call you out to come. So there was, luckily, when we got to the front, I was the one with the only 2 kids, so I'm like, oh, they're definitely gonna get called on. And they did get called on one, but this freaking old dude, it's like he clearly pointed at my daughter, like clearly. Old dude just like, oh no, it's me, like a 40-year-old, and runs up to take a picture with the
don't
trooper.
Say 40-year-old and then say old dude.
You know what I mean? Like like a grown adult. And I was like, really? Like, so then the next time, the trooper pointed to my daughters again, because that's who he meant to do the first time. This time, so they go up. So I was like, go up to them and like use the force and stuff like that, and play along because they talk and they're fun like that. But they were so shy. It's so much so like one of the troopers goes, he literally looks at her and goes, "It's okay, little one." Like in the voice command or whatever. I was like, that's hilarious. That he's like, it's okay, little one. I was like, see, he wasn't gonna rescue because like, but 2. It's very much everyone's in characters. There's like a theme and a story. So it's Rise of the Resistance.
It's immersive, yeah.
And my oldest, my 6-year-old, is really into like that role playing stuff. Like she loves to pretend and get in that stuff. So like she knew that stormtroopers are basically like military. She knows they're like space cops essentially, right? So she's like, are they gonna arrest me? I'm like, no, they're not gonna arrest you. Yeah.
Am I gonna go to Star Wars prison?
Yeah. Kylo Ren is gonna smite you with his saber. But I'm like, no, she's not gonna arrest you. She's like, oh, okay. And she was like really nervous. And then as soon as we leave, she's all talk again. But I'm but once you're like next to them, you're like, yeah, no, she gets all balled up. But no, it was really, really fun. And they loved all the rides, like Frozen, Tower of Terror. We did almost everything.
Did you do the Millennium Falcon with them?
No, we didn't do that.
Oh, you didn't do Smuggler's Run?
We didn't do Smuggler's Run, no. The wait was long. And I like Smuggler's Run, but like,
well, it's just the experience of flying the Millennium Falcon for them.
Yeah, I'll probably do it again. There was just because it was gonna rain that night. That was Hollywood Studios, so it was this weird thing because you're trying to beat the rain. So it's like we could either use the fast pass to do Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway again, or we could do.
Oh, they probably flipped out over that.
They love that we did it twice because that's the thing. Like we only didn't do it because my littlest one, my 3-year-old, couldn't do it. So it's like, I'm not going to wait in line just for one person.
They wouldn't let her do Smuggler's Run?
She's not tall enough, no.
What?
Yeah. She's too little. I think she's 30. With the boots we got her, because, we tried to get her in there. We got her some platform shoes.
Wow. Because there's really nothing much to it.
30.
Sit on a parent's lap or something.
I guess because it jerks around too much. 38 inches is I believe, what you have to be for it.
Whatever.
So she couldn't do that.
Lame.
But she couldn't do Rise of the Resistance either. So.
Yeah.
But
which Olivia did.
Olivia, oh my God, she loved that ride. She actually force crushed Kylo Ren. She timed it just right.
You got an awesome video.
I got a video of it, where she's like trying to use the force on Kylo Ren, and at the exact moment she does it, like Kylo Ren like falls over because he gets hit by like a blast. But in her mind, she's like, I just used the force on him. I did it. And she's like freaking out. She's like, I saved the day.
Tell me the location of the secret base, and then I will destroy you and the Resistance.
You did it! You did! We gotta go!
It was the cutest thing because that's a 20-minute ride because there's like 3 parts to it. And she was in it. She's like, oh no, we got captured. How are we gonna get free? And then, the First Order brings you off into the
such
ship.
An epic ride, man.
Yeah, she's like, how are we gonna get free? And blah, blah, blah. And then we get broken out by the rebels when they burn the door and stuff like that. Yeah. And then I'm like, the droid's gotta bring us to safety. And it was just, she was in it. She was totally in the story.
That's amazing. So what's a highlight, low light? Because I know you got rained out of like a couple times.
The low light was the first day at Magic Kingdom. We got rained out and caught in the rain. It took us like 2 to 3 hours to leave because the monorail was shut down. So we had to take the ferry because we were going to do the bus because we were staying on site. We were staying on a Disney resort. But like we get to the bus and the guy's like, the ferry is going to actually be quicker. And we're like, okay. So we go to the ferry and we're just waiting. You're packed in like sardines. It's like War of the Worlds. Everyone acts like like aliens are hovering over the park and we're all gonna
comes
die.
Up out of the water.
No joke.
People
act like it's the end of the world. We're getting bombed or aliens are gonna like suck us up to where they have to get out now or they're gonna die.
It could happen.
It was just like, and then the amount of grown adults that don't know how to cover their mouth when they cough or sneeze is infuriating. Is it really that?
You are a particular germaphobe.
But dude, no, but it's like common courtesy. You are like a kid. you get a pass because you're a kid. It's
Right.
like you're a kid,
Yeah.
right? You just get a pass. It's still a little gross, but it's like you're a kid. You don't
Right.
know better yet. An adult, you like you know, like 18 and up. You're not covering your mouth. You're just gross. Like that's just how it is.
It's true.
like I don't want.
There is few things funnier though than when I'm present and someone coughs or sneezes and doesn't, even if it's like they just didn't get there in time,
because
your reaction always makes me laugh so hard because it's the most sincere
It's
disgust imaginable.
I don't want your spit, your particles, your germs, whatever you're carrying or not carrying on me. Okay, like no, that's just
That's so
it's not
funny.
great. And even pre like all pandemic and stuff, it was still disgusting. And it's even like just gross. Just no.
Well, I
No.
mean, theme parks just in general are gross.
Yeah, but it's
There's
just,
so much like
It's just-
because I have a little bit of germaphobe in me. Not as bad as you in some ways. I think I have certain things and you have
bro,
certain things. It's more like that.
There was this waiting for the ferry.
But theme parks, you got to put it out of your mind.
My wife was gonna lose it, because there was this lady. We're in the like closer than me and you are right now. We're all packed, and we're waiting for the ferry to go back to the parking lot, go back to our hotel. It's late. It's like 11 o'clock, midnight. Kids are asleep. They're cold. It's wet. We're like, get back to the freaking hotel now. And we had to do it all over again the next day.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a long day.
Yeah. So
Because you got there at open.
rope drop. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. And with a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old
That's
and a double stroller.
hardcore parenting right there.
So there's older lady, just like an adult. She's probably like in her 40s, say she's in her 40s. Constantly coughing, not covering her mouth. Not covering her, just it's like you don't want, like, no one taught you to do the Dracula. Like no one taught you to do the Dracula right here, like the no one taught you that, or the shirt right here, like.
Yeah, just normal common,
But like it's also like I just don't know how you don't think of that, especially when you're in like
an enclosed setting.
so
like that.
many people. Like I don't.
Did you guys say anything? Did anybody say anything?
Amber, my wife, she may or may not have used the stroller to push said person farther from her. Because it was so packed, you could get away with that stuff, So it was just like a little push to the stroller, be like, yeah, now you're down too.
I can see her doing
You're
that.
2 feet further
That
now.
is good.
Because it was like, I almost said something though too. Like there was a few times where like, I usually try to like not be the guy where it's like, I'll let it ride. But I was almost like can you cover your mouth, please? Like I wasn't going to be rude, but I was about to be like, can you please cover your mouth? Like,
man.
why do I have to tell you this?
If you were in New York, that would have taken 2 coughs and 3 people would have told you, "Hey, cover your mouth." What are you, an animal?
Bro. But anyway, Disney was really fun. The kids had a blast.
So what was the best part? So that was the low light. What was the best part?
Oh my God. The best part, the 2 ones that stand out for me is the Frozen show. My 2 daughters freaked out for the Frozen show because it snows at the end and they love Elsa. A lot of the character stuff. And then actually Rise of the Resistance with my oldest Olivia.
Olive.
Because she was so into it.
Yeah.
Like the story, like because she was following along and everything. She was watching. She's like, "Oh, Dad, so we're captured now." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "So who's gonna save us?" And like she was just so immersed into it. Like it was like we actually got arrested by the. First
I mean, it
order.
helps that it is an insanely well done ride.
No, it is, and she sees
even
it-
the queue.
She sees all the First Order troopers in there. She's like, "Are they real?" And like,
Yeah,
I'm like, kind of like, yeah. I was like, yeah, if you want to be real, yeah, they're real. Because like I don't want to take her out of it. I'm like, if she wants to believe it, sure.
Did
Kinda
she
like the
freak
Santa
out
thing.
over hologram Ray?
Not so much. More so BB-8. She likes the
Really?
droids. She likes the droids. She likes R2.
Yeah.
Oh, she loves Star Tours. This kid didn't want to go on it.
What?
I had to force her to go on because she's like, what is this? Because I guess she didn't see anything. I'm like, trust me, it's fun. And then we get on and she's like, you're right. That was awesome. Because we got front row too.
That's great.
And she didn't know, the doors go down
Yeah,
and
and
C-3PO is right
yeah.
there piloting. And she's like, what? So she
Wow.
loves Star Tours. That one was one of our favorites too. But she really she's just a thrill seeker, I found out. She loves Soarin', Thunder Mountain, Tower of Terror.
She's looking for the danger.
Dude, yeah. And then the little one was just happy to be there. She also loved everything, but she was just like, whatever you guys want to do. I'm good.
At some point, can we get an ice cream?
Yeah, minus Elsa. She was always asking for Elsa Anna. Elsa Anna was her
Frozen's her jam.
Frozen was her jam. So we went on that ride twice.
Well, I'm glad you guys had a great trip. That it looked like, because you were sending me stuff throughout. It looked like you guys were having like the time of your life.
It was hot, but yes, it was really
particularly the kids.
The kids,
which is at this point why you do it.
Oh, 100%. I was telling my wife, I was like, I feel like I need to stop videoing because like I'm not enjoying the rides at all because the whole time I'm on the ride, I'm just videoing them. I'm not even looking at like what's in front of me.
Right.
I'm looking at the camera to make sure I'm getting them on, on my phone.
That's why you're there.
Yeah.
That's why we spend the money at that age, because it only happens for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And then it's over.
Yeah. The autograph books was a cute thing too because I've been to Disney so many times before, but even as a kid, I didn't really do autograph stuff that much with the characters. But my daughters loved it, like all of the Mickey, Minnie, the princesses. And it was just like, it was really cute how much they wanted. Because what do we want to do next? Like, I want to meet Belle. So we'd have to see where Belle's doing a meet and greet and what time she's doing a meet and greet.
Are you going to try and go back?
Yes, but I think
you're like, we
were talking about California Disneyland or potentially a Disney cruise or a Royal Caribbean cruise. I don't know. Because I was literally talking to my wife last night about it. I was like, maybe it just makes more sense to do all the theme park Disney stuff while they're still young. Because we're in these years, we're between like 3 and like 8 and 9. Because once you get to 10, you start getting a little older. So like I feel like between like 2 to like 8 is kind of that sweet spot.
It is.
Where the magic is still there.
I would say 10.
You think up to 10?
I would say 10.
Okay. Where that's
like
where
2
like
to 10.
everything's like, whoa, like still magical. Because when you're like older than that, you're still gonna like and have fun, but like you're not gonna believe in it or think the characters are real and stuff like that. So I kind of want to get the most out of these years. Where it's like, well, maybe we should go to Disneyland where that's still like that magic is still there because we have time to do like Mount Rushmore, Grand Canyon, or do those kind of bigger like trips or even like a normal cruise. I kind of want to do all like the fun kid stuff while they're in that magic state.
Now that you've spent your entire life savings, Arris will be offering his body for sale online.
Oh
He'll be joining OnlyFans too.
Yeah, guys. Check out my OnlyFans, Arris_Q.
Oh, God. I can't wait to see you doing the NPC on TikTok. Yum, spicy.
I got amazing calves. My calves are amazing.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you guys had a good time.
It was fun. It was expensive. And now I'm back.
Yeah. And now we're on Ahsoka episode 6.
Yes.
Which we'll talk about next week.
Yes.
All
anyway,
right.
that brings this,
yeah, I think that wraps us up for today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like we said, week early, people. Week early.
Look at that.
All right. So for all of you who complain about missing episodes and all that kind of stuff, now I got one in my bucket. All right. This is a brownie point on our end.
For like the 20 that we missed on.
I said one. It's just one. We got a lot of making up to do, but we're working on it.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.